So it is Easter and Passover as well. All the Judeo-Christian holidays. I'm not sure what Muslim or Semitic holidays. I don't know what Islam celebrates around this time, but I'll do research on that. But within the last couple of this last week or so, a lot of just different discoveries and connections and questions that I ask because questions, are the gateway to understanding the world that you live in because then you will look for answers. So anyway, so I've now with my book, since I've been writing everything down and I've been starting chapters and erasing them and renaming them and redirecting my thought process. I had a one thought process at one point and I changed it and I revamped everything and even renamed my book. Um, human divinity or something like that. What is it? Immortal humanity, the Great Reset. And then I remember writing of chapters about duality, where the actual chapter was named duality, and then I was naming like positive and negative, and plus and minus, and black and white, and yin and yang, and light versus dark. I mean, Democrat, Republican, straight versus gay. I mean, come on, you name me all the dichotomies and all the different dualities. We could be here all day long. But the whole point is to understand that there is dualities that are not like one over the other. That was one of Layla, one of my Facebook friends. She was mentioning that it's not as above or so below. It's not a division. And I'm saying, yeah, they're right side by side. And that's the two angels, the black and white angels that you saw also on my Facebook wall. And then I discovered, for some reason, when I'm looking at my Facebook and it's around Easter and people hate the New World Order and there's a lot of different sacrifices going on. Luke Radowski was mentioning Luciferian, and that's what triggered me to actually look up Lucifer in Greek mythology because I've been researching Greek mythology. And I looked up Lucifer, and he is the bringer of light. Lucifer is the bringer of light. But then I'm like, okay, then what is this thing? Like, what's this thing with the Christians and Jesus and all that stuff? Because we know that a lot of the players in the Old Testament and the New Testament were basically the angels, okay? Whether it's the Bible or it's the different mythological creatures in antiquity of other cultures like Shiva, and then you have the other gods, Indira or something, in India and in Japan and China, like Buddha and all these. And I'm just like, okay, if you study all the different religions out there, they're all basically the offshoots in the same thing that is being explained with different words and different languages and different pictorial representation. But when you really go back to, if you were to go back to antiquity, if we can go back in time, it's the same gods that came down and helped humankind, helped mankind, helped humanity figure out who they are, but not fully, or else we would be like a god, right? Well, this is where the whole thing with the jelly juice and the phosphorus and the bringer of light and then the Lucifer and what if Jesus was Lucifer, but man's modified version of what they wanted the flock to follow? Because why would Jesus rise once a year? Okay, why would he rise once a year? Well, a lot of ways to me that depicts that's humans progressing, but then they also decline. So if Jesus can rise once a year, then mankind can kind of progress at a very incremental level, but they also decline. And so if Jesus was really a representation of Lucifer, mankind would actually be human divinity living indefinitely, and we wouldn't have to need to procreate or die or do the things that we do to fill in our time in between priorities. We would find a way to, first of all, right now I'm speaking from the sense that yes, people are doing things in between priorities, but if we all, if there was only 500 million of us and we all were living indefinitely, we would do so much and have so much knowledge and so many access to resources. We would be able to do so much because we wouldn't have to feed so many people. We wouldn't have so much infrastructure to require so many people to be worker bees on a daily basis. You know, if we only had 500 million people spread across the globe, we would have all the systems in place and it would be like a utopian society. We wouldn't have crime. We wouldn't need a police force. We wouldn't have infanticide. We wouldn't have suicide. We wouldn't have any of the things that require a government agency to overlook people. So, anyway, so right now, so this is like a trip because so Jesus, I think, is a very modified version of Lucifer because Lucifer is the bringer of light. He's the bringer of knowledge. He is the yin and yang. There's Satan, the prince of darkness. That's the yin. And the yang is Lucifer, the bringer of light. And they both work side by side. Someone said that Satan is a Lucifer's ambassador. Yeah, it's like the yin and the yang. You have to have both because if you have so many people, right? So many people, and you always promote life, there must be some kind of death. But it doesn't mean that you have to die. This is where the whole Jilly Jews living indefinitely. We know there are people that can be slipping through the cracks. I mean, Dr. Phil knew it. The mainstream media knows it. And so if we give people the option with Jilly Juice to where, yeah, you feel your pain, you feel all your different symptoms, you do the waterfalls, you drink water, you eat food, you're not playing the diet game, and you watch your body morph back to what it was originally intended and still take on to the innovation, that is the light. That is life. You know, that's light. That's Lucifer. And then you have all this knowledge about how your body works. You have this knowledge about how everything is being played, you know, with this resurrection, and then you have the human sacrifice. Those two go hand in hand, whether it's human sacrifice in the medical holistic system where you have a lifespan, or it's a human sacrifice to where, oh, wow, we have this incident at the Capitol, or wow, we have this incident here, and all these people are dying, or whatever, or shooting here, or, you know, whatever. That's part of the yin and yang in our society, especially when we say we promote life, and then we're seeing all this death over here, and all these wars, and we're like, how do these things compare? How do they even become part of our landscape? People are so against war, but they want to promote life, but you can't have both. You can't have all death or you have nobody living, and you can't have everybody living or else they would eat up the earth and take up away all the resources. So there's got to be a balance, and that is Lucifer and Satan, the bringer of light and the knowledge of light and life. And then you have Prince of Darkness, who goes into the all the different distractions and all the different pleasures on such an extreme basis that eventually, yeah, you know, you will eventually die. And so but here's the thing with Lucifer, it's about balance. See, that's the thing about Lucifer, which when people want to liken Lucifer and Satan as if they were one, I mean, they are, but they're the yin and yang. You don't have to be Satan. Okay, but you know, if you take on Luciferian principles, you know there's going to be a certain amount of death in your world. You know there's going to be ritual sacrifices, whether they get posed as some kind of event in the media, or, you know, one of your family members has died from cancer, disease, and chronic illness. It's still a ritual sacrifice because their death now is not going to make you pay for their services, their caretaking. You know, the death, you get life insurance if they're insured. You know, you're not now being taken up by somebody else's situation. And so when someone passed away, it's like a sacrifice. I mean, if you want to get ahead, right? And you want to, let's say you want to get a degree or you want to become like a great movie star, you might have to sacrifice all the things you did, people do when they're kids. Let's say you're like 12 years old and you're trying to go into Hollywood. Well, you're not going to be there like 12-year-olds. You're going to have to sacrifice going to the sleepovers and the birthday parties and the playground. Now you have to be stuck in a studio all day long learning your lines. That's sacrifice. No different than when you have a system that says, okay, we love life, we promote life, it's so wonderful, get a vaccine, get whatever, which is great, fine. And then, hey, here we have palliative care, hospice, oncology. We're going to suppress your innovation, suppress your evolution with antibiotics. I mean, that's where people get so confused. They're like, we don't get it. We don't, and they don't realize that they're living in a world that has to have a balance. And if you're not aware of that balance, then you're going to have somebody else determine where you're going to end up, where you're going to start, and where you're going to end up. And so with the Jilly Juice, and then you have the Luciferian principles around it. Not to say I'm not Lucifer or a Luciferian, but the Jilly Juice protocol is very Luciferian because it does bring light and knowledge if you can handle the pain. If you can handle the belief system that humans can be immortal. They can be, I mean, you could say godlike, but I'm telling you, what's godlike out there is when you're bringing up so many hormones that represent a specific biochemistry. Let's say like Robin Williams. I put on my Facebook, Robin Williams, he didn't die just from depression. He had a neurodegenerative disease. Okay, your life, your who you are, your life starts in your gut, because that's where that's where your immune system is, and then it translates to your brain. If your gut's messed up, or you have specific chemistry you're bringing into your body, or you've been innovated with specific antibodies that are both agonists and antagonists with viral data transfers to strengthen parts of your brain to where you're funny, or you're so smart, or you're so strong, you find a way to manipulate your muscles so you can be strong, or you're like a model, you're so skinny and so cute, then yeah, that's like a godlike type of thing that then you see in Hollywood or you see on the magazines. That we have exploited humanity to be godlike, to be a representation of the mythological gods and demigods that came down, that are probably still around, that you don't really know because you think that they are some kind of ethereal image and ethereal looking thing, but no, they're just like you and me. And so that's why then you see the pharaohs, like the Anunnaki, that were the giants that did run Sumer as well as Egypt, and they taught mankind all the things that they knew. That's why man made a major leap from being a hunter-gatherer to be now a civilized society. But they also had a lifespan of sorts. What made them not be very immortal? Because they were demigods. Now, to be an immortal god, why they were immortal, then the whole thing with the ambrosia, the sugar, covalent bonding, and then the salt, the light, those two together is what makes up a human. But when you are lacking in sugar, lacking in salt, and lacking in nutrition, then that's when the body starts cannibalizing itself. And that's when I say, yeah, people are into ketosis. Now, I understand if you're obese and you're trying to lose weight, I get the whole ketosis, staying away from carbs and sugar and only eating fat and protein, where the body is cannibalizing itself. But at some point, if you do have major vital organ issues, the lack of sugar in your body is going to destroy you, because the body has to burn for fuel. And if it's burning, the couches and all your furniture in your house, if we were to make it like a house, you're gonna eventually burn down the house, because that's what ketosis does. So when you're bringing in light like salt, which is energizing you, stimulating the ionic bonds of your body, allowing everything to really run the way it's supposed to and release the excess and rebuild what it needs and regenerate, then you're going to have that balance of when you're eating also carbs and sugar and proteins and all that stuff and fats, and you're balancing it with something like J juice that has the light force, then you could see immortality as long as you can handle the pain. Okay? And so that's the curse of humanity, is that for you to be immortal, you have to go through levels of pain to get there. And when there's new viruses in the environment, you're going to feel it too. So I think, so let me bring it back to what this original transmission is about, is that I think Jesus was a very modified version of Lucifer. And yes, higher powers do exist, but they do exist within you. And higher powers are relative to the perception of the human, who has so much divine power, but has had it also suppressed. So when people say, oh yes, I feel so divine, I feel a higher power, and you're just like, dude, you're dying. What the heck? Well, yeah, every person's going to feel like they're a higher power if they feel that they've adopted the holistic, allopathic, ascension, whatever. And you're like, okay, well, I can't argue with that, because you do have a certain amount of power as who you are. but your belief system is that you're also going to pass away at some point too. So is your, is your higher power really a higher power, or is it the fact that you've just accepted and your position in life? And it's such a conundrum. And so yes, humans can be divine and they can be immortal. They can be very, very intellectual. They can be very logical, very peaceful, very productive, and not have to be like floating around. I mean, we're seeing a lot of different evolution in humanity. You can call it, evolution, adaptation, mutation, whatever you want to call it. But also, I'm watching humans die around me. And I know that that is going to be expected because it's the yin and yang, the prince of darkness, as well as the bringer of light. That is, that's going to be a naturally occurring thing. So what I'm doing is giving you guys the opportunity to make your choice, because now the gods, with all the internet and the grid and the amount of information you have access to, now you have a choice. You could be part of the prince of darkness where it's okay to die and be distracted between your priorities until you pass away, and whatever innovation they can eke out of you during your lifespan, fine, great, that's your contribution in your short lifespan. Or you could deal with the pain, predispositions in your DNA and in your genetic family history. You dispense and you sacrifice all the pleasures for a minute until you can get your body recalibrated. And then when you finally earn the right to have those pleasures, whatever they are, then you'll do it in a very modified, conservative way where it's not too much and not too little. And then you will be a very balanced person that could potentially live indefinitely and adapt to every condition on this planet, so as long as life can hold it. So now you have a choice. So the other night, if you watch the last like 3 or 4 videos, you'll see that I've discovered this thing about Lucifer. I was like, it just it tripped me the frick out. I'm serious, it tripped me out. Because I see a lot of my Christian friends who are all about Jesus. Jesus this, Jesus that. Oh, he is risen, he is this. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But why can't you rise after the death? Why can't you live indefinitely? Why do you feel like you have to worship somebody that you could be doing this yourself? You could be living indefinitely. Do you have to worship another person or a god? You have all the qualities of a divine creature like Jesus. If Jesus is able to walk this earth, he had human potential as well as divine potential. And you're saying that you're lower than Jesus? I don't think so. I think all of you guys have the potential to be Jesus, but you don't have to die and then rise once a year. You can just stay pretty consistent. Be alive. Be aware. Learn stuff. Teach your kids. There's so much to learn out there. It's insane. And so yeah, so it's probably going to be a little jolting to some people when I say, oh my God, is Jesus like a modified version of Lucifer based upon mankind? Because that's what John Milton wrote a book, Paradise Lost, to redirect people into thinking that Lucifer and Satan were the same thing. Because remember, the Bible, yes, has a lot of facts and truth in it, but it's also been rewritten. And there's been offshoots of the characters in the Bible that were written by people in the 16th century that did want to redirect the human population for a certain amount of control. Heaven and hell were made up to control people. And then, yes, if you say that Lucifer is the same thing as Satan, then people are not going to realize that Lucifer really had the knowledge and had a lot of things to offer, but was then suppressed by mankind who wanted to control. So some of the gods out there that wanted to control mankind found a way to mischaracterize some of the gods and demigods. Just no different than people did that to me. I'm not saying I'm a god or a demigod, but people were purposely mischaracterizing me on Dr. Phil, BuzzFeed, Newsweek, Daily Mail, all that stuff, So I could see then someone like, this John Milton wanting to go and troll and mischaracterize and defame someone like Lucifer for his and for a certain 1%'s benefit. Okay, because if mankind really knew their divine potential, we wouldn't have as much crap as we do. But we do. We wouldn't have cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Cancer is just evolution that's being suppressed. And so when you know this and then you're watching TV, you're like, holy crap, it's all over. You know, they're saying, we're going to suppress your evolution, suppress your evolution. It's okay to die. I mean, they are promoting ritual death on TV like it's nobody's business. And then with the whole thing with the Reformation, the power to the pulpit gave also mankind the ability to redirect and rewrite parts of the Bible to their own, agenda. And then that's why you have some of these pastors and priests that make millions and millions of dollars because they figured out how to control humans who don't know their own divine potential. And when you have humans that don't know their own divine potential and they don't understand pain and they're afraid of death and all that stuff, then it's very easy to manipulate. And I caught that a long time ago. That's why I never picked a side. I was raised Jewish, but I never picked a side as far as a religion. When it was all handed, I lived in a religious Jesus cult. Not that I took part in it, I was just questioning. I was just trying to figure out what their whole premise was. But I've been introduced, been offered places in religious society, whether it's Jehovah's Witness, whether it's Mormon, whether it's Jesus, not Mormon, but Christianity, Catholic, all that stuff. And it's all the same stuff, just a different way to explain it with different words, but with different languages. So I'm going to go and drink some coffee. My foot's asleep. I was sitting cross-legged. But happy Easter, everybody. Whatever your religion is, happy Passover, happy Easter, happy whatever it is. You guys, learn your human divinity. Learn your human potential. Okay? There's no reason why anyone should die in your world. But we know with the balance of the Prince of Darkness and the Bear and the Bringer of Light, there is. But be the one to be alive. If we're going from 7 billion, from the per Georgia Guidestones, from the 7 billion to 500 million, be the one of the 500 million. Don't be the 6.5 billion that's going to be recycled back into the chaotic universe. Be the 500 million, because that's what the system is aiming for. Remember, balance. You can't have too much life or too much death. There's got to be a balance. All right. Bye.